Always checking everybody. It is Jeff and Anwar. We're back. It is the Orange Bloods Texas football channel here on YouTube. And we're talking breaking news. Texas and Oklahoma officially filing the paperwork needed to enter the SEC. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey releasing a statement saying that they weren't really looking for additional schools in the SEC, but yeah, they'll talk about it. They're interested. This thing's happening. Onward, the details are nonstop. It's like one thing after an hour. I literally just said before we recorded that I had to check both Orange Bloods and Twitter just to make sure that you and I weren't missing something right as we were recording. Board of Regents for both schools meeting on Friday after the SEC presidents get together on Thursday, which is 2 days removed from today when Texas and Oklahoma officially announce their intentions to seek entrance into the SEC. Just another crazy day in covering the Texas Longhorns athletic department.
Yeah, Catch. I mean, what it seems like, Catch, is that that train has left the station. It's definitely not turning back. And what we didn't know, Catch, was when this train left and we started reporting these things next week, and we reported that, hey, the Texas was going to say they weren't going to be, they weren't going to renew, as far as that contract is concerned. What we didn't know at that time was how quickly and how fast was Texas and OU trying to get into the SEC, and how quickly did the SEC want them. What we're finding out is they all want to be together very soon. Like, it's funny, you talk about how things changed. Just yesterday, we were just doing one of these shows, and we started talking about timelines, and maybe it's 2023 is a good timeline, and we talked about 2022, why that makes sense. And now we're also seeing reports, like Brett Murphy has a report that they're trying to do it as early as 2022 to make it happen, which of course makes the most sense to me. So what we're seeing, Catch, is that these people have worked very hard behind the scenes. They have a plan, and we're seeing it getting executed in real time. And it's really fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I think you make a couple of really good and interesting points. I think Texas, to me, is going to be playing in the SEC in 2022. I don't know how we get there. And I think maybe the most interesting thing from today's announcement from Texas and Oklahoma that they're seeking official admission into the SEC is that in their joint statement, they mention in 2025. That is Texas and Oklahoma. If you're wondering, if you just heard me say, well, Catch, you think Texas is playing in 2022, and the statement that the official letter that they sent to the SEC says 2025, that is lawyer talk right now. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, once the progress goes like this, they tell the Big 12 they're not renewing. So after 2025, they're free to kind of do what they need to do. And it doesn't break any of the bylaws in the Big 12, because all of this would be action taken after all of the rights evaporate in 2025 on the media rights side. So they specifically put 2025 so that they won't get in trouble with the Big 12 for having this out there today. And this still follows kind of what we've been talking about, is how do we get to the 2022 or the 2023 part? What happens to the Big 12 from here? Texas and Oklahoma have done their due diligence. They are doing what they need to do from a lawyer side of things and making sure that they protect their assets and their positioning. And now they really are going to kind of wait and see what happens, I think, in terms of when and how soon this happens. But you and I have also heard that it's not completely crazy that Texas would be proactive and just knock the damn doors down themselves to get in as soon as possible. I don't know if Oklahoma wants to do that, but Texas is eager, it would seem.
Yeah, very, very eager, Catch. Like it is there. The powers that be, and are we saying powers that be, or we're saying Kevin Eltife, right? I mean, yeah. Whoever, but we know he's a huge part of what this whole thing and this whole transition is concerned. They definitely seem eager. They definitely seem ready to go. And I think Texas is a little bit different than from an Oklahoma standpoint. Oklahoma still has Oklahoma State, right? There's still that, kind of like, do you leave them hanging in that state, that rivalry, and in all those things that intertwine? Texas' biggest rival is Oklahoma. So they're ready to go. So you're not leaving anything behind at that point. So at that point, you just say, all right, it's time to go. It definitely looks like Texas is more than ready, more than willing to get into the SEC, more than willing to make this thing happen. And there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of reasons why it clearly makes sense from the marketability standpoint, recruiting standpoint, money, of course, which is always going to be at play, and then not having their brand have to hold up the Big 12, even though Texas hasn't had the success that they've wanted to have for many years. Their brand still is holding up the Big 12. And the reason Catch, is because everyone's talking about, well, what happens when Texas and Oklahoma leave, right? Especially Texas. What happens when Texas leaves? So no one's saying, you don't need them. It's not like if Baylor left the Big 12, you would say, what do you do next? You would say you'd find another program and call it a day. When Texas is talking about leaving, now the Big 12 is in this scramble of what do they do next? And to which I don't think they have the answer at this moment. But I tell you this much, Catch, they damn sure better figure it out soon, because if they don't, they're going to be left holding the bag. I mean, hooray for SMU and Houston. Like, this may be a good come up for them, but they better figure it out, because Texas, like you said, they're ready to go.
Yeah, I think that, it's really interesting here that you've got the Oklahoma side of this, which it seems abundantly clear that Texas and Oklahoma are in this together in ways that go beyond a simple partnership. I mean, in order to kind of pull off in secrecy what they've pulled off and the risk involved for both. I mean, you just mentioned that it's even trickier for Oklahoma at this point because of the Oklahoma State factor and just maybe their state legislatures positioned. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the governor of Oklahoma is an Oklahoma State grad, not exactly the same situation that Texas is dealing with Greg Abbott. So if Texas is hot to trot, but Oklahoma has to be a little bit more cautious, I wonder, so one of two things at that point happens. Either Texas and its leadership, Kevin the Mac, either they just blow the doors down, at which point Oklahoma can point to Texas and say, they're the big bad Texas Longhorns, and blame them, right? At which, Texas may not care about that. If it comes down to, wait a minute, you need us to provide you some cover by being the bad guy, that's kind of what we do. So, so that could happen. Or the other thing would be, look, Oklahoma could be saying it's a little bit more delicate on our side. And let's say the $75+ million that it would take to buy your way out of the Big 12, whereas Texas might have that money ready to go if needed. I'm not completely sure that Oklahoma is. So again, Texas can be the bad guy if that's who Oklahoma needs them to be. But on the political side, it's a little trickier. So it seems. I mean, it may turn out not to be. But the conversations in that state seem slightly different than what we've seen, I think, from the various universities. There's no one university right now tied to Texas's hip. At least in state. It used to be A&M. Yeah. Now it's Oklahoma. And so it's a different type of deal. And I think Texas fans are okay with that. I think people inside the state of Texas probably get that and understand that halfway, because Texas has tried to control. They've had these contrived rivalries the day after Thanksgiving. And it's like, no, it's not a rivalry game. No matter what you say and when you want to play the game, our rival is Oklahoma. And it's really the only rivalry you've really ever seen on the field, because I've seen Arkansas and I've seen A&M, and I can tell you about those things, but you've damn near been here a decade and you're like, no, it's Oklahoma. And these other games, just, they're not tied at the hip moments. So I guess I'll just finish that thought off after I rambled a little bit by just saying Oklahoma has potentially some sensitivities that either Texas may have to respect and slow down a little bit for, or Texas can just be the bad guy and they'll knock everything down and just allow Oklahoma to follow through if that helps. But whatever happens, it won't be willy-nilly. It won't be like it wasn't specifically coordinated between Texas and Oklahoma. So it's like whatever Oklahoma needs, I think, is what we'll see Texas do. It'll just be interesting to see what Oklahoma thinks it needs from its partner in Texas.
Yeah, but to catch one of the last things I'll say is, and I'll toss it back to you. You know, I still was thinking about our conversation that we had in the previous show, and I still feel like 2022 makes the most sense for both parties. I just don't like the idea of either program being lame duck for a couple of years. And I just think it's just a bad rub. It's a bad feel for everyone involved. To your point, yes, I think Oklahoma may have, they have, like I said, it's the Oklahoma states that they have to worry about and how to make that worry. But at the end of the day, Catch, I think what we've learned is that there's been a lot of conversations behind the scenes. I mean, essentially, getting together with your rival to make a move like this. I mean, imagine, and I'm not saying like you and Billy are quote unquote rivals, but but imagine Orange Bloods and Texags combining for some sort of like major media operation. You'd be like, what the hell just happened, right?
We're going to have to do that, by the way. Billy and I at least have to do a podcast.
To me, there's two things why you and Billy have to talk this week, okay? One is this whole move to the SEC. Two, the NIL deals that both companies have done. There's more in common now more than ever. And yes, you and Billy together, I've been asking for it for years. There's many things I've been asking for. Finally, I'm going to get it. So I just got to hope I don't get hit by a bus. But if I don't, or just ride a bike in Austin, because that's probably more dangerous, we finally get a chance to see it. So Oklahoma does have some little things that they may have to jump to. But I think I get the feeling that Oklahoma's done their due diligence. And like you said, if Texas has to be a bad guy, so be it. But Oklahoma is thinking about the long term. They're thinking about the prize. They're thinking about what this means for them, from, recruiting standpoint, money standpoint, success as far as making sure they are always going to be in the college football playoffs. So there's a lot of benefits for them as well. So they may like, I guess we'll go and see. But deep down, they're like, oh, hell yeah, we out. So that's the last thing I'll say.
So like if Billy and I did a special, he and I could get rich if we ever did a consistent show together.
Yeah,
that would be bigger than Feinbaum, I think, in Texas. I have a name for a potential Billy and Ketch show.
Okay,
the Two Satans.
I don't know about that in the Bible Belt here, Ketch.
No, because we're both the devil in the eyes of the opposite constituency. Texas fans loathe Billy and they legitimately think he's the Antichrist on some level. But Aggie fans think even worse of me. So, A&M fans will drudge up 22-year-old photos to fat shame me on social media. Like, I don't even have 20-year-old photos. Like, those are on someone's folder saved. It's very Auburn and Alabama-ish. I just don't know of an Auburn and Alabama show where the two devils for those two schools are, I don't know that Billy and I get along so well that we would say that we're friends, but I think we're friendly to each other.
Yeah.
I think something could happen.
I think it can happen. I'm good with Billy and I are cool. Billy and I are cool. We can make it happen. We'll make it happen this week. We'll try.
Whenever Billy and I talk on the phone occasionally, like once every couple of years, it's always very cordial and nice and we get along. It's just that on Twitter, every once in a while, we just have to put our hackles up and engage and get frisky. And that's just, it's just the way it goes. Real quick before we sign off, any other thoughts about just the last 24-hour cycle? I feel like we've hit obviously all of the main points, but it does feel like this thing's happening so fast. It's like, I don't mean to bring politics into this, but it's like a Trump news cycle in that no matter what happens like on a Tuesday, by Wednesday, so much new stuff will have happened on Wednesday that what happened on Tuesday just kind of gets forgotten. And we're in a little bit of that kind of news cycle right now. It's a tsunami news cycle. And like all of the hot stuff on Monday feels very a week ago because so much has already happened by 10 a.m. today on Tuesday.
The only thing that I would say, Kesh, that remains consistent and within that, because your observation is correct, one consistent is Texas fans are happy. Like the one thing we're not getting is pushbacks from fans that they're saying like this, they don't want this to happen. Now, the only thing I've seen, and I've talked to some, people who are big money boosters, they don't necessarily like the imagery that Texas is desperate and Texas needs the SEC. So there's a little bit of like ego that's involved with some people, but overall, everyone's happy. Overall, all the people who have told me for years, screw A&M, never want to play them, or once again, like now the truth is coming out and they're excited about this rivalry coming back. So the one thing that I see, Catch, just throughout this since last week until now, you're not seeing this from a Texas fan base that's upset. You're not really seeing it from a national standpoint either, Catch, of people who are, poo-pooing this and saying this is a bad idea. Everyone, hell, you retweeted something from Dan Le Batard, yesterday about, what did he say? Something about Texas having to hold up this bogus conference. What was it? What was
the other 8 schools bottom feeders?
Yes, that's right, bottom feeders, right? And so even from a national standpoint, no one's saying, man, what does Texas do? And everyone's like, yeah, it makes sense. So yeah, I catch. No, my thought process is as we, keep going, getting notes, a lot of inside information on Orange Bloods. So you're getting a couple of little nuggets on Twitter. You are getting details on Orange Blood. So now is definitely the time that
60-day free trial.
Tell them the promo, Catch.
Just go to Orange Bloods. It's all over the place. You can basically click on any story. The promo code is OB2SEC with the number 2, not, so UT2SEC, 60-day free trial. And I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. If you give us 60 days, that takes you into the season. If we can't win you in 60 days, something awful has happened in the way that Anwar and myself and the Orange Bloods team is covering things, because we don't usually lose those. So yeah, take advantage of the free trial. This is literally the most exciting moment in the University of Texas's entire athletic history, outside of winning the national championship in 2005 and the build up to that game and that season. This is the single most, I think, exhilarating moment that we've been living through. Who knows what the hell happens, but the here and the now, right now, incredibly exciting. Sarkisian with a new team, new program. And oh, by the way, we're going to have access on Orange Bloods, unprecedented in the history of college football, coming up in the month of August. Oh, by the way, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Do those things. I forgot to mention that at the top, but definitely check us out over at Orange Bloods. I feel like this is the time, if you've never done it before, to check out what all the fuss is about. I'm pretty sure we will not disappoint you.
We won't. So it's very few times that we leave. But I would just say this is the last thing, and just the small, like, humble brag. Like, we're putting out tons of content for you. So thanks to everyone who subscribes to the YouTube channel. But we're putting out something daily for you guys, in addition to the Orange Bloods contest that's there, in addition to a very active, people think message board. It's really more of a community. It's a message board, but it's a community that really goes beyond just talking sports. So you get that sports stuff, you get the sports insight, you get sports insiders, but you also get to be a part of something that's really special. Now's the time. Like, if you're a Longhorn fan, now's the time to go 10 toes down, go all chips in, bet the house, because there's really exciting times. this season, now, next season, going forward. So yeah, now's the time. Let's do it. And thank you guys once again for supporting.
Like us and subscribe in every way that you can. For Anwar and myself, we'll do this again tomorrow. Who the hell knows what will happen by then? But we'll be here for you later.